Hi students, we're going to learn about topic 5, terms of trade. Okay, earlier I have introduced terms of trade as in cyclical factors which affects our BOGS. So in these terms of trade, we're going to learn the concept of terms of trade, formula of terms of trade, how to calculate, how to interpret, and then we're going to look at factors that affects terms of trade, and then the effects and also the trends. Okay, so as for first part, we're going to look at the definition or concept of terms of trade. You must remember terms of trade is an index, okay, which measures the relative movements in the prices of exports and imports. So the key word here is prices of export and imports. It also measures the purchasing power of a country, okay, in term of export, in term of the imports it can buy. And it's also the ratio of export prices to import prices. Okay, so the formula going to be as export price index over import price index times 100. Okay, so let me show you an example here. Say for instance, if export price index is 110, import price index is 105. So how do we calculate our TOT? Will be 110 divide by 105 times 100. Okay, so answer will be 104.76 if 2 decimal. Okay, so this is the basic calculation of terms of trade. Now to interpret the calculation, whether it's in a favorable or unfavorable terms of trade, we're going to look at this. Okay, let's say if you do not have 2 years to compare, we can take a base year. Okay, remember base year is always 100, the index is. So if you get your TOT as 95, for example, okay, 95 is lesser than 100, right? So it will be unfavorable movement. Okay, if you have 2 continuous years like year 1 and year 2, okay, and you want to compare TOT for year 2 with year 1, okay, so if year 1 is 110 and year 2 is 95, for example, okay, so for year 2 TOT is lesser than year 1. So in this case, terms of trade is unfavorable, or it deteriorates compared to the year before. Okay class? Okay, let's say we still use base year here, but like what we calculated just now, let's say TOT is 104, base year is 100. Okay, in this case TOT is favorable. Okay, and again if you are comparing 2 years, if the year 2 is greater than year 1, okay, then for year 2 terms of trade is favorable. Okay, we can look at another example here. Okay, with this example over here, we have 3 years, year 1, 2, 3 and 4. XPI for year 1 is 100, MPI is 100, TOT is 100. So this is a base year. Year 1 is a base year. Okay, so for year 2, you need to do a calculation. Okay, XPI given is 105, MPI given is 110. So XPI over MPI times 100. Okay, it's going to be 95 0.45. Okay, so for this we're going to compare with base year. So when comparing with base year, 95 obviously is lower than 100, so the result is unfavorable. Okay, so for year 3 we're going to use 112.5. MPI is 115, so here is 112.5 divided by 115 times 100. Okay, you get 97.83. So in this case, for year 3, you don't have to compare with year base year. You only have to compare with year 2. So 97, you compare with year 2 year 95. So this is going to be favorable TOT. I repeat again, for year 2 you compare with base year 100. For year 3 you compare with year 2. Okay, please do not compare year 3 with base year. You'll get different results then. So year 3 you compare with year 2. That means you compare 97.83 with 95.45. So that's why you're getting a favorable results here. So you can try out for year 4 as well. Okay, combination of changes in export price and import price here. Okay, so the common combination here is whenever you see export price increase and import price index drops, okay, we consider it as a favorable or improvement. And when export price falls and import price increase, it will be unfavorable. Okay, this is a common changes that takes place. Okay, but however, in the case of where you see export price increase, import price increase, so you must check if export price rises greater than import price, then it will be favorable. Similar, if both falls, right, when both falls, if export price falls greater than import price, then it will become unfavorable. Okay, on the third condition here, both falls, XPI and MPI, but XPI falls lower compared to MPI, then it will be a favorable movement. And when both increase but XPI increase lesser than MPI, then the result is unfavorable. Okay, in the case of XPI doesn't change but MPI is reducing, right, then you get a favorable movement. Or MPI unchanged but XPI is falling, then it will be unfavorable. And if you have MPI unchanged but XPI is rising, then favorable. Or XPI unchanged and MPI is rising, then it's unfavorable. But remember, it's all about export price index and also import price indexes. Okay, you're comparing, if export price rises more than import price, then it will be favorable. So if import price is rising greater than export price, then it will be unfavorable. Okay, next we're going to look at how to interpret this favorable and unfavorable amount. Okay, obviously we're going to use the calculation to determine our TOT. So in case of favorable, what happened here is we can buy more imports with a given volume of exports, or we can use lesser exports to purchase a given volume of import. So basically what we are looking here is we are increasing the purchasing power of export increases, so we can purchase more import. And in the case of unfavorable movement, so we know unfavorable is export price index falls and import price index rises. So we are purchasing less import with a given volume of export, or we need more export to purchase a given volume of import. So in this case, purchasing power decreases. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to the factors affecting TOT. Okay, So for the first part, I'm going to look at micro factors. Micro factors is what you learn in your year 11 especially, okay. Factors that actually changes your demand and supply, okay. So we have demand and supply. You must know that changes in demand and supply will give effect to our price, okay. So we have introduced this during your introduction section for supply and demand, for market equilibrium, okay. So let's look at factors that causes changes to demand, okay. So definitely it's going to cause changes in price, okay. For example, income, okay. So when real income changes, it's going to give effect to the demand, okay. Demand for normal goods, for luxury goods, okay. So usually when income rises, the demand will increase, okay. For a positive income elasticity of demand, the demand will increase, okay. For substitute goods, so substitute complementary goods, you know, substitute is alternative goods, okay, like for example between Coke and Pepsi, okay, and complementary like petrol and vehicles, okay. And changes in fashions, taste and preferences, okay. Maybe I can relate with current situation here, okay. We have having a crisis, okay, virus, okay. So in this situation here, the demand, the preferences for facial mask, hand sanitizers have been increasing, so the demand for facial masks will increase, okay. If there's increase in population, demand will increase, okay. Expectation about future prices, so current demand will increase. Good advertisements or during festive seasons and climate changes, there will be increase in demand, okay. I'm going to show to you in term of graph here, okay, for demand itself first. So remember your supply and demand graph. We have a quantity and price, okay. For instance, we have supply and then we have a demand, okay. Just assume this is for face mask, okay, and this is your original price, this is your quantity, okay. So now what happened is, for example, at current situation the demand has increased. So demand increase mean demand curve shift to your rightward like this, okay. So when demand curve shift, it's causing the price to increase, isn't it? Okay. See, for example, if Australia is demanding for mask from China, right, and the price increase, so in this case import price will increase, right. If you're buying this imported mask, import price will increase. So connect it back to your preferences here, okay. So in your supply and demand curve, you can show that the price has increased because demand has increased. So remember, when demand increase, it will cause price to increase. Also vice versa for certain situations, like for example traveling, right. Traveling is restricted now, so for travel agency and all that, the demand will decrease, right. If demand decrease, the price will decrease. So when demand decrease, price will decrease. So you only have to look whether we are exporting the good or importing the goods, okay. Now go back to our factors for supply. See, for supply increase or decrease, it depends to various factors. For example, technology, okay. So when technology rises, supply will increase, okay. So we're going to look at what happens to the price, okay. Again, substitute complementary good. Cost of production is such as labor cost, material cost, okay. So change in climatical condition, natural disasters, if like for example bushfires, right, what will happen to the supply of the goods. Okay, what happened when we impose a tax and when we provide subsidy. Okay, we're going to look at it in form of graph again. See, for instance, we have demand and supply graph here. Supply and demand, original price and original quantity. Okay, so in this case, just assume this is equilibrium for wheat, right? Okay, so when there's bushfire, for example, okay, and then supply is destroyed. So when supply is destroyed, what happen is supply will reduce. When I say supply reduce, I'm going to shift my supply curve up. Okay, now what happened? Can you see here? The price now has increased. So the result is when supply is reduced or when we have shortage of supply, it's going to cause the price to increase. Okay, and due to technology, due to reduce in cost of production, if the supply increase, it's going to cause price to fall. Okay, let's say for example there's an oversupply of iron, right, or oversupply of wheat in Australia. So it will cause the export price to decrease as well. Okay, so you stick to this, the factors that causes supply to increase or decrease and what happened to the price. Similar for demand also, the factors, okay, what happens to the demand and then how it affects the price. So now why are we learning the changes in demand and then changes to prices? Because price you can connect to export price and also import price. Similar for supply also, the price here you can relate to export price and import price, right? See, for instance, due to technology, if China can increase the supply, so the import price will improve or import price will decrease. So import price index decreases, TOT will become favorable. Okay, again the reason we are learning XPI and MPI is to connect it to our terms of trade. Okay, so this is a micro aspects. Okay, micro aspect, I mean individually we look at different factors. So you need to know this, especially during data response questions where you have articles, there is changes in minings or service base. Okay, why the prices has increased or decreased and how it affects your terms of trade finally. Yeah? Okay, so that's all for today's section. We have covered micro factors that affects TOT. On next lesson we will be looking at macro, that means in a bigger picture how it affects our terms of trade. Thank you.